Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Baku City Street Circuit in Azerbaijan for the fourth round of the JAG Sunday Series. Hotspot on the call with you this time out. Should be a very interesting one. Baku, one of those tracks that has provided some very good racing over the previous years, has provided a lot of memories for a lot of people. When you think of Baku, you think of Sergio Perez and, his perennial dominance here. You think of Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo and their shunt. Speaking of shunts, you think of Max Verstappen's massive shunt in 2021. A lot of memories come to play on this track. I think if you ask most F1 fans to put together their favorite tracks in a list, this is going to be somewhere close towards the top. At least that part is true for me. This is the fourth round of our season here. That's typically about where Baku lays on the real-life F1 schedule. As a matter of fact, it's actually been put somewhere more towards the end. It's in between the Monza and Singapore rounds next year, and I think that's great. I think this track has provided some great racing over the past few years, and I think that's going to be great when it comes towards championship implications. And if you've seen Baku before, rain is not necessarily out of the question. This track lies on a peninsula in Baku City. Well, the Baku City is on the peninsula on the west side of the Caspian Sea, so typically we do sometimes get some rain. I know recently we haven't had rain. I think it was the first time back in 2016 we raced here. We as an F1 raced here. What I think it was labeled as the European Grand Prix at the time. It was a rainy race, which was, I guess, slightly unexpected. But sometimes in the virtual world, you do see rain come into play on this track. But doesn't look like it's going to be the case today. Bright and sunny at the moment for the time being, thankfully enough. We do have the Ferrari of Reimer out on track first. Last week's race winner, going to be the first one out here. Reimer, a driver that, and I've said it time and time again, I think if he just he'd been on the cusp of winning races, he finally let the floodgates open, perhaps, with his win last time out in Qatar, which was a very interesting race nonetheless, but Reimer held on and did very good to take that win, and he currently leads the championship here as well. Let's go over that right now. While we have a moment. As far as the driver standings are concerned, Reimer leads the way at 73, Jag Ched behind at 56, Marsbar 48, Stims 44, Baniklash 38. He's actually tied with Ward at 38 apiece. Jake Snowwolf P7 at 32. TJ True Loki God tied at 30 for P8. Got Lord Alum and at 26, Maple Ace 25, and then the rest of the way at Jaker, Peakhour, Bergen, and Chuzik. So the rest of your top 15 there. A lot of drivers classified. We've got 31 drivers classified in the championship so far. As far as the constructors are concerned, Williams leads the way at 120, 19 points, ahead of Alpine in second at 101, Ferrari 96, Mercedes 72, leads AlphaTauri by 2 points. Haas at 67, they're in P6, Red Bull 59, Aston Martin 47, McLaren 30, Alfa Romeo 22. So hopefully for some of those drivers and some of those teams at the latter end of the grid, we do get some good results for them today. A lot of what happened last week. We did have a lot of steward reports last week. I just want to touch on one driver here, that being... Who was it? I believe it's Rise in that Aston Martin, as we're going to see Reimer here come to his first timed attempt. Rise did take a hefty sum of penalties last week. Well, I say this, he moves from P7 down to P8. Oh, sorry, that was, well, I guess that was the only, he did receive a 3-second time penalty for a collision on lap 8 between himself and Ward. As a matter of fact, it was Mons who got a lot of penalties that time out. But as far as the penalty points are concerned, Rise actually does lead the way at 9 points. It's himself and SD Brown, both at 9 penalty points. So something to look out for them. They'll have to be slightly more careful. As we're along with Reimer here, as he makes his way through Sector 2, the, I would say rather slow beginning to the sector, actually, as you make your way through the castle section, the old part of the city. Also a beautiful section of corners that, ask Charles Leclerc, he'll disagree. Makes his way now through 13, 14, and eventually towards 15. Very high speed. I would say almost flat-out left-handers. I say almost, because when you get to those tires... when you get to the mediums, even if they're worn down, you do have to lift for the corner. Turn 15, down the hill in towards 16. That turn 15, we've seen a fair few of incidents time and time again. It's just such a tight corner and you know, the outside wall does creep up on you a little bit. The flick of 18, 19, and 20 here. That's difficult, especially on worn tires. We do see sometimes drivers have slight problems with that, but then here you get to this part of the track. It's just absolutely flat-out straight line speed. He's going to get to the line at 218 miles an hour. That is massively quick there. It's only about 2 or 3 mile an hour less on average than what we saw at Las Vegas. In the last time I did a league race there, we were looking at about 221. Maple Ace has gone second at the moment. He finds himself 6.5 tenths behind Reimer at the moment, but next to the line, I believe, well, it's going to be the Mercedes of Baniklash, a driver who has, well, I say it's actually not Baniklash, it's his teammate of Algeri, who has only just qualified behind Maple Ace at the moment. He actually finds himself, you know, less than 5 100ths of a second behind Maple Ace. That being of Luke, the Haas has taken second within 3.5 tenths of Reimer, so at the moment we're seeing not exactly the most put-together grid at the moment. It's a lot of gap here. Of course, Reimer's an absolutely mega quick driver in his own right. But as we go along with Baniklash here, coming up here, driver that has really impressed so far this season. He's time and time again found himself towards the top of the grid as we got 2 drivers retiring already. Baniklash has gone second. I'm sorry, what does that mean? Are those even times? You have got to be kidding me. Reimer and Baniklash, 142, 134. The pair of them are even on time. Wow. What are the odds of that? Adonis has actually gone P1 in that sentence, 141.911. Put about 2.2 tenths behind Reimer and Baniklash. But what a interesting sight that is. These 2 drivers, I tell you what, again, have really been the class of the field so far this season. And well, if that's no indication there, well, there you go. Of course, Reimer has the spot for now because he set the lap first. That's the rule itself. So Baniklash, P3. And I don't know how you make up 1/1000th of a second. Don't ask me how you try to make up that specifically, but that's a cool little sight. And in that time, we have seen now 5.5 tenths separate the top 5. In fact, that first second spans back to P10, which is occupied by the Algerian of Algeri, who I believe is going to be coming his way into the pits here in a second. What we've just had, I believe that was the Williams of Marsbar, who's putting together a timed lap now. Makes his way in towards turn 2. It's another tricky right-hander. That one, I would actually argue, almost more narrow than perhaps that left-hander of turn 15. That does catch out drivers by surprise. That one is going to be very close. And let me tell you something. There's a reason I don't sim race. It's because I kind of suck at this game. And I have been known to cause a collision in that part of the track. That was very not good, and I think about that a lot. But Marsbar making his way now. Purple Sector 1 for him at the moment. This is a very tight section here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. This being the castle section of the track. This turn 7 here, very difficult in its own right. You can take a lot of it, you know, and cut it. But as you can see there, that wall very, very close to you on your outside. And he's gone into the wall then. Oh, and nearly into that one as well. But this section of the track is so difficult because this being a street circuit, you're already having difficulty with grip and picking up rubber because it is a street track. And so naturally, you know, you only just get the road cars that are able to put down rubber, but even then that's not a lot. I don't believe this track... Oh, well, I'm not sure. You know, tracks like Monaco and Vegas were tracks that were opened up to the street use after the sessions. I'm not entirely sure if Baku does that, but either way, the road cars are not going to put down that much grip. So sections of this track where you go from heavy braking like turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, all of that is going to be very, very difficult on a driver because just the lack of actual grip there is in rubber laid down. As you saw, Marsbar there had some difficulty, and that also falls under braking as well. Marsbar goes 142.760, moves up to P9, and is into the Lewis Hamilton part of the track. Exiting turn 1. Next up is the Aston Martin. It is not Maple Ace. It's that of Rise, who's beginning one here. Let's go along with Rise as he makes his way through turn 1. Takes actually kind of a, I would say, more shallow apex that time. Doesn't go all the way close to the corner. And he'll do kind of the same through turn 2, but at the moment it looks all clean here from the Aston Martin driver. DRS activated between turn 2 and 3, as you see now. He'll actually get in surplus of 200 even into the braking zone here. Exits turn 3, in towards the right-hander of turn 4. You don't often see overtakes being made there. I think the one that comes to my mind is Pierre Gasly to get onto the podium in 2021. And now this is another corner here, the curb on the outside, got to watch out for. Has to be said, Rise at the moment looks like he's on an okay lap. Turn 7, very tight corner. I'd say quite picture perfect through that section. Up through the castle section. Another part of the track where grip is difficult to come by. And now it's going to be flat out here through the left-handers of 13, 14, and then over into 15. Let's see, uses the outside curb. Doesn't take much of the curb on the apex. That's actually very nicely done there from Rise. At the timing line he goes, he's a half a second quicker through Sector 2. Oh, but you can see a little wheel spin there, and the car has snapped just a little bit. The back end has gone slightly around. That may hurt him, because that is going to hurt his acceleration, so that may have a lot more impact on the rest of the lap than you initially think, just by, now the lack of traction he had, the lack of acceleration compared to some of these other drivers. This one may actually not be his best lap. 1:42.657. I remember he was 0.5 of a second quicker through Sector 2 alone. At the end of the lap, he's only 4.8 tenths faster. So he has lost time there, is that indication, but moves up to 8th, and I tell you what, very closely contested grid. Meanwhile, the McLaren of Adonis... Adonis. Yeah, that was pretty close. That was pretty close the first time. McLaren of Adonis making his way down the pit straight here. I'm actually quite interested to see what he does here. Beginning his timed lap now. He's actually turned on the energy store quite earlier on in the lap, I assume. Coming out of the turn 16 left-hander, beginning Sector 3. That's actually interesting to see there. DRS activated here. At the braking zone, he gets up to 202 by the time he slows down there. Maybe a little bit wide at a turn 3 that time. Looked slightly wide. Oh, that was dangerously close to the outside wall, then a 4. Reimer has retired. Oh no, Reimer's retired. Where has he done this? We've got the Aston Martin to the inside. That is on the other side of the track. I'm just trying to pick up with the driver here. Well, I can tell you exactly where he's done that. That's coming out of the flick of 18 and 19. We'll see Marsbar go through it here in a moment. So this is 17. And then 18 and 19 right here. I think the back end of the car may have just gotten away from him. And that's the end of Reimer's qualifying session. Albeit he does have, I would think, a very competitive lap going at the moment. I'm not entirely sure he'll be able to maintain his top 5, perhaps even his top 10. We have a lot of drivers here vying for that top spot. Fear Luke has actually gone P2 at the moment, 7/100ths behind Adonis, who a 1:41.911. He's actually held on to that since about 10 minutes to go, roughly. Bannicklash to the line. He'll go provisional pole, 1:41.821. Only 9/100ths behind... And I tell you what, Adonis, I was going to say Adonis was off the pace there. 1:41.372 has actually blown Bannicklash's time out of the water. 4.5 tenths clear of the Mercedes here. That is a huge turn of events there for the Mercedes of Bannicklash. And now I think is, well, actually the Alfa Romeo of Lewis. 1:41.345. That's 3/100ths better than Adonis. I tell you what, we got a lot of competition here for the top spot. I think realistically anybody occupying the top 6 spots could have a shout for pole right now. This is great. I think now we are going to start to see the queue of drivers come in here. We've got less than 5 minutes to go. Several drivers have just finished laps. With this being a lap time of 1:41, that doesn't leave you a lot of time to get back into the pits, refueled, new tires, and then back on your way. Especially, when you're on that outlap, you want to conserve the tires as much as you can. Thankfully, on a track like a street circuit like this, you're not going to get much tire wear as it refers to, vertical grip and load on the tires. So that may be helpful. So you can go a little bit faster on your outlap here. You're going to have to. There's not a lot of time. Alpine of Tim has just gone P5. 1:42 flat. 7.5 tenths quicker than his previous best, moves up to P5. And his teammate of, what does that say? Oh, Marshall. Oh, that's pretty neat how he's done that. He's done, yeah, okay. So Marshall's gone P6. So it's an Alpine third row lockout at the moment. Reimer's fallen back down to P7. Which we, unfortunately, I would think is going to have to be foreseen there because of the, I think even if it was a great lap that he did put down, the door was quite open, though, and he's at P7 at the moment. Jake Snow Wolf has gone outside of turn 1. He'll get that spun back round and back going here. I believe if we just had the Ferrari of peak hour, is he starting one? I would believe he is. So the Ferrari of peak hour, who right here has to be said, he's got a kind of a big job to do here. 3.6 seconds off the pace of the moment, 3:15 left. Rise is retired. Oh, Rise is retired. That is on the apex of turn 1. Is there a driver we can go along with to see what has actually happened there? That is very odd. Huh. Can't say I've seen something like that before. I mean, maybe has he hit the outside wall? Maybe has he gone too close to the inside and has bounced off the inside barrier and hit the outside? That would be my guess. So peak hour at the moment, making his way through Sector 2. What I was about to say, he's got himself a big job to do now, because Ferrari, I would very much argue, at a disadvantage here, now that Reimer is going to be definitely outside the top 5, perhaps even the top 10, if some of these drivers here, like Jake Snow, Wolf, and Ward, can put together better laps. So peak hour, very important lap for him, because he's going to be, at the moment, a big source of points for this Ferrari team. Marshall has retired from the session, that being in the pit lane, thankfully enough. We've got a couple drivers on outlaps now, that being at least 6 drivers on their way out on track. In fact, all but 6 are out on track at the moment, that being of the drivers we have left. Peak hour making his way down the pit straight now. A minute 50 left to go here. At the line is going to be peak hour. Only improves to P16. He does improve by a full second nearly, but only P16 for the Ferrari of peak hour. I tell you what, that one is going to be going to leave a little bit to be desired there for peak hour. That not his best, I don't think. But at the top 4 on out laps now. We got a minute and a half to go. Looks like Luke is going to be our first driver round. Banniclash is going to be the last out of this queue. And our current pole sitter, actually, well, that's just not even true. Lewis is going to be the last of that queue. So we'll go along initially with Luke here. Mind you, we do have drivers like Maple Lace and Algeri also on outlaps here. Stims on an outlap, True Loki, God, Mars Bar, all on outlaps here. Let's see if any of these drivers can make a splash here and get themselves into the top 10. Jake Snow Wolf into the pits. He's not going to be able to improve, I don't think, here. Luke on his final timed lap now. 40 seconds remaining through turn 1, and that's where we saw, well, there's the tire off the inside of the circuit for the carcass of Rise's car, and again, very odd place for that car to be retired. He has definitely hit something. The front tire no longer attached to the car, as maybe you'll be able to see along with Banniclash here. That's the inside of the corner. That's in the rear view. You could just see the tire carcass to the inside. Thankfully, the game doesn't, really register that it sat there on track. But either way, that is the case. And now Luke, who's going to be at the Sector 1 timing line here, is actually slower by 2/100ths of a second. Still a lot to be made up here. I feel like you're going to gain and lose the most through this second sector. Tim has done all he can do. He goes P5. Not bad at all for Tim. His teammate of Marshall occupies P6. At the moment, it's a third row lockout for the Alpines. Up through the castle section, looks like Fear Luke doing an okay job at the moment. Makes his way out of turn 12 and now into the quick section of the track. Marsbar has retired on track, that being in between turn 2 and 3 down the DRS straight. Then through turn 15 he goes, and he's done well again. He's kept it very clean. At the line is Luke. Is he improved? Yes, he is. Over 0.3 of a second. At the moment, that'll move him roughly up to P3. He won't get past Adonis, or Lewis for that matter, but P3 would be very satisfying for Luke here. And I think he's had an okay enough exit out of this turn 16 in the final sector here. This may be a very solid time. Let's see what's he pulling for straight line speed. At the line, is going to be around 220 miles an hour. He does go P3, 141,760. Next coming up here, I believe, is it Banaclash? Yes, it is. Adonis has invalidated his final attempt. Behind Banaclash is his teammate of Algeri, who currently resides P10, just under 1 second behind. Banaclash to the line, provisional pull for him, 141,067, and it's all going to be up now. Lewis has retired. Oh, he's in the middle of the track! Oh, and Lewis was pushing very hard on that final attempt, and he's gone off at 18 and 19, around where Reimer bit the dust earlier in the session. And I'm sure Adonis, well, he was already invalidated, but someone checked the overalls of the McLaren driver there. They may be a slight shade of brown now, because that car came to rest right in the middle of the track then. That's a very narrow section of track, not a lot to be able to avoid something like that. That is a huge off for Lewis, and a driver who, at first glimpse, looks like he's probably going to be on pace to take pole back. But it is Banaclash on pole for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here in the JAG Sunday Series. So starting grid then for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, it's Banaclash on pole by about 0.3 over Lewis, who binned it on his final attempt. Adonis third, fourth is Luke, fifth is Loki, Tim is sixth, seventh is Marshall. It's a almost a third row lockout for the Alpines. Eighth is Reimer, who retired early in the session. Stims is ninth, Algeri 10th, Maple Ace 11th, Jake Snowwolf 12th, 13th for Ward, 14th for Rise, Marsbar 15th, Goonan 16th, Peak Hour 17th, Yorkie 18th, Bergen 19th, and unfortunately, Bergen and Louise did not put together timed attempts. So I tell you what, the top 7 separated by a second, but even then, very close. A lot of these drivers in the midfield could have a fair shot at cracking the top 10, perhaps even the top 5 in the podium. We'll have to wait and see. So the formation lap underway here in Azerbaijan. We're about ready to go. We've got ourselves one more lap around the circuit before we begin the race. Let's go ahead and look at the tire strategies here. I would assume most medium. Yes, there are. In fact, only, 2, 4, 5 drivers on a compound other than the other than the medium tires. That tells me a lot of these drivers are planning for safety cars here. Big driver on that front's got to be Bergen, who's chosen the softs. Now, these soft tires I wouldn't expect to be able to last more than, 7 laps competitively. Anything after that, you'd have to believe is going to be in puncture territory. So Bergen, hoping for the early safety car here. That much is true. Big question is going to be Reimer. He's P8 at the moment. That's where he's going to start on the grid. He had a very competitive time, earlier in the session. Unfortunately, retired, hit the wall exiting turn 19 at around the 10-minute mark, as far as I, remember. So he's got some work to do here. Last week's race winner has a lot of competitive drivers ahead of him, that part is for sure. Banaclash on pole, Lewis. Now, I tell you what, I think this car was going to be on pace to take that pole position back right at the death, but unfortunately, he did hit the wall going through that same part of the track as Reimer, 18 and 19. And that car, well, there's your possible strategies there, 12 to 16 roughly for the medium to the hard, which is, about what we expect. That's about halfway through the race. So I tell you what, Lewis being in the second spot, it's going to depend where he lines up on the grid. If he's off to the inside, it may actually be good for him if he gets a better, pull away off the grid. Adonis P3 on the hard tires. That one may be slightly tricky for him because he's not got any drivers, near him that he can take advantage of also being on the hard tires. He is the lone driver in the top 8 cars. In fact, only one of 2 in the top 10 who have chosen the hard compound tire. So Adonis may be struggling off the line here, and he'll have to keep it clean. This track does breed a lot of accidents, and Adonis being right in the heart of it on the off compound tires is going to be more or less a traffic cone on the well, in America we call it the interstate. What do they call it in the Britain? The motorway? Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, anyways, he's going to be, he's really going to be in the way here, I think. He's going to be quite the sitting duck. That's unless he can get away well. If he gets out of this, group of drivers from, third to about sixth, those first couple of rows, he stays out of trouble, he may get away okay, and he may still be in position to challenge for the top couple of spots. But if that's the case or not, that's going to be a different question. Fear Luke and True Loki God have been disqualified. I guess they haven't found the grid well enough to the game standards, and they will now start at a slight disadvantage to the cars around him. We'll have to wait and see what happens here. Azerbaijan, one of those tracks that breeds some very great racing. We've got 20 cars here in JAG on the grid here, lined up, ready to go. I have not one good camera angle here. The lights are turning on 3, 4, and eventually 5. And JAG is off here. Well, that did not sound good. Anyways, Bandit Clash off the line. Lewis, well, I tell you what, Adonis trying to go around the outside. He nearly had it behind them. I tell you what, Mars Bar is already off. We may have ourselves an early virtual safety car here. Yellow flag's on track and the grid is slowing down. Yes, virtual safety car right in the beginning here. We do have Louise. I believe Mars Bar has gone somewhere along then. Oh, I tell you what, something didn't go well between those two, and the virtual safety car is on track. And Louise, I would go ahead and assume, is missing, the entirety of his front wing. Maple Ace has picked up 5 seconds for ignoring the yellow flag. Louise has picked up a 5-second, I would assume, for the severe collision. We didn't really get much chance at racing there, so not a lot of moving about, at a time. The top 3 has stayed the same, although credit to Adonis, he got away well and challenged Lewis for that second spot right off the gun. And Loki God and Fear Luke have apparently swapped positions, that being for 4th and 5th. If drivers have moved a spot, it's one or less. Goon has actually made up 3, and I think that may have just been down to staying out of trouble. What I would assume is an extended virtual safety car here. Is that going to allow Baniklash to take control? As we are still not under green flag conditions. Virtual safety car still out here. And now back to green we go, in towards turn 15. I hope everyone... Oh, Baniklash, I think he hit the wall going through 15. That one may not have gone well for the Mercedes. Has he got damage? No, he doesn't. But that was a noticeable hit then at the very least. You could definitely tell that car really had some understeer going into that corner, and Baniklash, I hope, has not got damage. Meanwhile, Lewis still within the slipstream here. Fear Luke and Loki God have swapped positions again, that being for the second time whilst we've been racing for, the less than half a lap. Baniklash the fastest lap. Tim now down to the inside of Loki. Loki's going to move down to 6, but he's going to try it back to the inside, and he's going to retake that spot. That was a great little sequence there. Loki God, after a fair battle, does retake his 5th spot. And now Adonis, who, by the way, we thought was going to be a sitting duck with the hard tires off the start here, is really pressuring Lewis here as they make their way down the second straight here. He's going to have a peek down to the inside. Not enough room, naturally, to make anything happen. He's still about 8.5 tenths, behind. But still very convincing from Adonis that the hard tires may be very competitive here. Lots of naturally good driving here in the middle part of the pack. Again, we haven't really gotten the chance to get up to speed. Marshall's apparently not had a good start. He's down 3 spots. Is now trying to repressure Stims to cement himself in the top 10. Reimer's gone into the barriers and across, and I think, has he taken anybody with him? Thankfully, ghosting's on. That would have been a huge calamity there, perhaps even a red flag. But Reimer was side by side. I don't remember if it was Marshall. Well, it was someone in that, area of cars. I can't remember if it was the Alpine of Marshall, perhaps Stims, maybe even Tim. But those cars went side by side into turn 7, and the Ferrari of Reimer ended up in the barriers on the outside, which, oh, by the way, even one car through there is kind of a challenge sometimes, and they've decided to try and make it 2. And so Reimer, unfortunately for him, we thought and we hoped that the floodgates were going to be open for him for the winds to start flowing here. after being so close in Saudi Arabia, then winning the race in Qatar last time out. And unfortunately for Reimer, he's not going to make it 3 podiums in a row here. So, well, still a lot of racing left. You never know what's going to happen. But still, he's going to be at a huge disadvantage here. No safety cars had come out. In fact, Reimer has stayed on track. Is he not missing any front wing? He's not. Well, I could have swore I saw front wings going about in that exchange, but apparently not. The car does look as if it's slightly difficult. Ward has had a huge snap of oversteer, falls to the inside, and now Rise is going to go around the outside in towards turn 3. He's actually going to get that spot well before the braking zone. Still, how surprised am I that Reimer does not have at least visibly noticeable wing damage in that exchange. The top 3 cars here, all of them, teetering in and out of DRS range here. I think was that Algeri who's just almost spun the car coming out of the 5th corner there, 5th and 6th corner. It got very close, didn't it? It was a noticeable snap of oversteer at the back of the screen. Loki God all over the rear wing of Luke here. Again, you can see the car really sliding about. All of these cars struggling to find the grip. Again, being a street circuit, there's not going to be much rubber laid down. And I tell you what, you can absolutely see these cars, a lot of them are struggling to get the pedal down. Lots of short shifting surely are going to be happening here. It's 0.5 of a second for Adonis to Lewis. Now, being that Lewis is now outside of a second on Baniklash, he's not going to have DRS to the Mercedes ahead. That is going to very much help Adonis. Let's get his telemetry up here, see his speeds. DRS is going to be activated. He's not using his battery, nor is Lewis ahead of him. And somehow, well, there's actually Lewis trying to make the move on Baniklash. I tell you what, I didn't actually think he was that close. Apparently he was. Or either that or something's gone wrong with Baniklash, because now we've got 3 drivers suddenly in contention for the win. Baniklash was... I tell you what, that was... Either there was a mistake with the telemetry, because you saw, as they exited turn 18 and 19, he was outside of 1.1 on the Mercedes. Something has happened with Baniklash. I don't even know what that was. Perhaps the interval timings here were wrong. Let's go ahead and call it that. For the sake of Baniklash, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt, because that was either a huge error on the game's part or on his part. Adonis then has actually just hit the inside wall. Oh, Lewis's big slide then. Adonis somehow got away clean out of that. But that Alfa Romeo nearly went round right in front of the McLaren, and that would have been so massively detrimental to both their races, and Lewis is definitely struggling with the car now. You can see him almost every time he gets back on throttle, he is struggling with lateral grip. Then again, that time coming out of turn 12. And again, here he is, 1.6 seconds behind Baniklash here. Is going to be in a lot of trouble with Adonis behind, and Adonis, even still being on the hard tires, is really caught up to the rest of this. Meanwhile, Loki God still within 0.3 on Fear Luke. Now, this is a battle that's been going on since about the beginning of the Grand Prix, and it's still going here. A driver that kind of poked his head into this battle was Tim, and is now outside of 1.4 on True Loki God. So he's actually going to be in quite the hole with Algeri behind, and Marshall behind him in very close quarters as they try to make something happen here. Is that the Red Bull of Louise? No, he's on the other side of the wall there. That was slightly concerning. Into turn 1 they go. This time, oh, Baniklash, that was a big snap. You saw that. He did somehow collect the car, but Baniklash does seem to be slightly struggling here as they make their way out of turn 2, and now down the first of the 2 DRS straights here. The grid's slightly spread out here, but at the same time, we've got a lot of drivers within that DRS range. But this is where those DRS trains come into play. As you can see, Marshall here just, within 0.3 of a second on Algeri, but just not close enough. We've got Peak Hour off at the back, and he's gone into the escape road. He's actually taken the McLaren of Bergen with him. Well, something's happened with these two. It doesn't appear that Peak Hour has any visible damage. Does Bergen? No, not Bergen either, so I don't know. Maybe they've just gone straight on. It's possible. Making their way through Sector 2 now, weaving their way up through the castle section. Adonis still, I would say at this point, actually trying to fight to stay within DRS range on Lewis. He's hanging about 0.9 of a second. He's not quite closing in on the Alfa Romeo, but Lewis has actually stayed within a respectable gap of Baniklash here. Again, we kind of has to be said. Oh, Yorkie Bar is retired. That being at turn 7, and can we go along with the Ferrari of peak hour? Oh, Jesus. I forgot ghosting was on. But that car retired in the Tech Pro barriers on the outside of turn 7, and the first safety car of the day is on track. Now, what does that mean? I would still think we're too early in the tire cycle to really pit and be competitive at the end of the Grand Prix here. Remember, the game's suggested pit window was 12 to 15 laps. So it's going to be double trouble and a double DNF for the pair of Willies here. Mars Bar on the opening lap and Yorkie on the 5th lap of the Grand Prix. Bannicklash on his way in. Adonis being on the hard stayed out. Fear Luke stays out. Although he was on the medium, so that's slightly... I would think that's a bold decision there from Luke. So Adonis will take the lead of the Grand Prix. Maple Ace looks like he's going to take 4th. Stims is going to take 3rd. So the pair of Haas drivers stay out. Maple Ace stays out. Goon stays out. Bannicklash is going to come out right behind the Alfa Romeo of Goon here. And Bannicklash is going to find himself in an Alfa Romeo sandwich with Goon ahead of him and Lewis behind him. So the safety car is going to take a minute to get itself together here. I'll step aside until then. Well, before we do, let's just take a look at the tires, and naturally the most of them taking the hards. Reimer's actually taking the mediums. Safety car on track. We'll be right back. So the safety car has decided to come in at the end of this lap. We've had 5 cars stay out under the safety car period, that being Adonis, Fear Luke, actually the pair of Haas drivers, Fear Luke and Stims, Maple Ace, and Goon have all decided to stay out. Everybody else has decided to come in, minus Louise as well. But the only driver out of that to not take the hard tires is actually our pair of Ferraris. Now, Reimer took the mediums on the first stop. Peak Hour actually stopped, came back in. The lap after he had initially stopped, he's fulfilled his lap on the different compound, and now he's on the medium tires again. So, interesting strategy to keep an eye on there. I tell you what, the McLaren of Adonis really backing up the grid here. Can we look at his telemetry here? Less than 50 miles an hour, and now he'll turn up the juice and see what shakes loose as they head down the back straight now towards the pit straight. Well, it's all the same thing, really, but anyways... Green flag back in the air. Here's Bannicklash already down to the inside of Goon trying to get... Oh, look at this! The Alfa Romeo! It was Lewis on the outside! Nearly got both of them! And now is side by side with his teammate. Goodness me, I saw Lewis's name move on the leaderboard to the left side of the screen. I didn't actually realize what was happening. He's gotten around his teammate, and Bannicklash has actually gotten around both of them. That was a massive... move then, as Goon is actually going to fall back another position, as now Algeria has gotten past him, that being the other Mercedes. Down to the inside is the Red Bull of Loki God. Was there contact there? That one looked really close, as now we've got another car off at the back. It's Rise, and he's shed the entirety of his front wing, and the safety car is on track again. We also have both Peak Hour and Bergen have all gone off. A 3-car accident there brings out yet another safety car as Rise loses a front wing, Bergen lost his, and retires, I would think, on track. That being out of turn 4, the safety car once again on track. We've not even completed 10 laps, and we've got 2 safety car here. Not to mention the first virtual safety car that ate up the majority of the first lap of the Grand Prix. So that means, for the time being, that Adonis has kept his top spot. The... Fear, Luke, and Stims have also kept P3. Maple Ace has taken 4th. Bannicklash 5th, Lewis 6th, Algeri 7th, Goon 8th, Loki God 9th, and 10th belongs to the Alpine of Tim. Now, assuming that a lot of drivers have just pit, I doubt that we're going to see many come in here, especially 16 laps, 17 laps on the mediums does seem like kind of a lot. At this point, so I'm going to assume if you're on the hard tires, you're going to stay out. Unless does Adonis make that decision to come in. He's thinking about it. Yes, he does. Adonis chooses to come in. Remember, these top 4 did stay out. So Fear Luke stays out. Stim stays out. The 2 Haas drivers, one of them, Fear Luke, and actually he's on the mediums. He would be staying out at this point. Well, he actually would have came in. Actually, Stims has been on the hards. So naturally, he would have stayed out. His teammate of Luke, I'm actually kind of surprised. Goon has come in. Adonis has come in. Adonis has actually put on the mediums. Behind them, Goon, Louise, and Rise have all pit. So we've only got about 5 drivers pitting that time. As well as the AlphaTauri of Ward, who, going rather slowly here. Is something wrong with Ward's AlphaTauri here? Let's see, does he have a front wing ready? I'm hoping this is going to be a quick safety car. We just had one that ate up another 2 laps than it probably should have. That would have been an unsafe release in real life. And yes, a new front wing going on for the AlphaTauri of Ward. Thankfully, he's not going to lose any extra spots here, so it was probably the good decision to do anyways. But that will promote the pair of Haas drivers to the top 2 spots, Maple Ace to 3rd. Although Maple Ace is a penalty, it's 5 seconds. We're not sure what that is. But it's a 5-second penalty from Maple Ace. 3 drivers have made 2 stops. The top 3 have yet to stop. Everybody else did. That being in the previous safety car in the early goings. Out of the drivers that pit, Adonis took mediums. Louise, Rise, and Ward all took medium tires. Goon stayed for the hards here, which, in my mind, was going to be the better decision anyways. Let's see if the safety car decides to come in this time. I hope it does. Fear Luke at the top of the grid on the used medium tires, the mediums he started the Grand Prix on. Stims, Maple Ace, both on old hard tires, also what they started the Grand Prix on, and it looks like, at least for the time being, the safety car is going to stay out on track here. So I'll step aside again, unless the safety car decides late on that we're going to come into the end of this lap, and I don't believe we will. So safety car on track, I'll step aside once more. Safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. The field being led by the 2 Haas drivers. Fear Luke on the race-starting mediums that he took, Stims being on the hards that he took at the start of the race, Maple Ace on his hards that he's used at the start of the race. He's got a 5-second penalty for what we're not entirely sure, but it is there. It'll be interesting to see. We've got Banniclash, who will, eventually retake the lead of the Grand Prix. And oh, by the way, it does look a bit cloudy, doesn't it? Has to be said. Surely no rain. That would be something. What a turn of events that would be. But Fear Luke really backing up the grid here, under 40 miles an hour as he tries to back them all up as they sit here by turn 20. And I think now he's decided to step on it. Yes, he has. As they make their way down the pit straight, it's going to be back to green flag racing here. As Rise has picked up a 5-second penalty for severe collision with Goon. That's odd. That's happened behind in the safety car queue as Banniclash tries to go down the inside of Maple Ace. Maple Ace nearly hits the wall on the outside. Lewis is in the barriers. Barriers or not, he's at the very least on the inside of the track, and he's going to have to wait for the queue to go around and get the car back in the correct orientation. Very not good. We've got what is happening here? We've got several cars gaining and losing spots. We've got these 2 side by side. What in the hell is happening here? It has to be said. I have no idea. Oh, look at the AlphaTauri of Snow Wolf trying around the outside. He nearly had to go to the escape road as he'll lose a couple of spots here. Adonis gets the spot over Maple Ace, that time being into turn 4. Reimer's picked up 5 seconds for ignoring a yellow flag. And the safety car is out on track again. Oh, this is why. Yeah, we've got several cars in the barriers here. Rise and Louise have both shed their front wings as well. No, it's only these 2. But double dosage of done front wings as Banniclash, a drive-through for speeding under the safety car. He finds himself at the moment. He's down in P14. I'm not sure why he's gone back to there. But it's happened. What a hectic opening lap there after that safety car, a 3rd one. About to be on track here, and I would assume we're going to see a lot of drivers take those mediums. If they haven't pit already, I think now's going to be the time to make that switch to the medium tires. You'll have 14, 15 laps on them. I think that's, and plus a couple laps under the safety car, even then. It's going to be not good here for Stims is on the hard tire, so he doesn't need to pit now. I hope he doesn't, because that would severely corrupt his chances, being that the Haas team would now have to do a double stack. With the safety car on track, Luke is going to stay out again! Sims also stays out, Loki God on his way in. There's actually, I tell you what, not many choosing to come in. We've got Adonis and Maple Ace on their way in. Only Maple Ace picks up 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane. That's his second 5-second penalty, so he'll serve one here. And the front wing, yeah, they're going to want to redo that. So about 8 drivers choosing to stop here. Notable inclusions in that also goes Adonis, Loki God. We've got Bannicklash and Lewis. Now, we saw Lewis at the inside of the circuit. Bannicklash, we don't know why he's back there, but he is. Now, this is interesting. They've chosen the softs. Now, that tells me, in my time of broadcasting, anything, I've done well over 100 sim races now, whether it be F1, whether it be Gran Turismo 7. I've done a couple there. That tells me, are we perhaps going to see weather towards the end? That's a very interesting question, because I think that this amount of laps for the softs is kind of past its window, wouldn't you think? Everybody else has stayed out. This kind of... see, it's interesting here, because we've got 2 different schools of thought. We've got these drivers from the top 9 and below who have stopped recently. Sorry, 9 and above who have stopped recently enough to where stopping again may not be the best idea. We've also got these drivers here, Marshall, Lewis, Maple Ace, Bannicklash, Louise, and Rise again, who Rise is just pit, I believe, for used hard tires. I don't know, the softs... this is a really tough call. If I didn't know any better, I would say maybe we have weather coming through. It is definitely getting cloudy here. That part is true. It was nice and sunny at the beginning of the race. There is definitely clouds hovering over the circuit now. This is a really interesting turn of events. Do Marshall and the rest plan on the weather happening? And they want to make up as much ground as they can before perhaps any rain does come through. I could be wrong. We could have no weather at all. By the way, if you're listening to this and you don't mind in future races, as it looks like Algieri decided to pit here, if you do listen to this and you don't mind, for future races, if there is rain in the forecast, don't be afraid to ping me in the Discord, because that would definitely help my going-abouts here. But what I can tell you is, to the naked eye... Whoa, look at this! Many drivers taking the intermediate tires! In fact, 4 of them have done just that! Well, dearie me... I guess I'm not wrong, because now... Yeah, what is this? 5 drivers have taken the intermediate tires. Way, way earlier, and oh, by the way, still no rain falling. I tell you what, had the race stayed green, and we had not had the massive safety car, this is our 3rd one, and yep, there's the rain. There's the first sprinkle of rain. I think what these drivers were planning on here was that the rain would hold off if we didn't have a safety car. We've had 3 of them. And so now, Goon, Algieri, Reimer, Marshall, and Maple Ace... I tell you what, they look like David Attenborough with the amount of knowledge with the weather and the nature that they have, because right here, the rain is going to be falling very shortly. And yes, as an American, I do know who David Attenborough is. Anyways, look at this is turning out to be one hell of a cluster here. That has to be said. You can see the sun is still shining, overlooking the crest of the hill, but now the rain confidently falling here in Azerbaijan. This is incredible. Meanwhile, Bannicklash and Louise have stayed out. I would have thought Bannicklash would have been one of those drivers to fit the intermediates. That's not the case. Does the safety car come in? We've only got 1 driver, which is Maple Ace at the back of the queue. The safety car looks as if it's going to not come in at the end of this lap. It looks as if it's going to stay out once more. And I think if you're Fear Luke and a lot of these other drivers on the dry compounds, that is going to be a huge godsend, and you're going to send maybe a thank you basket to Race Control later on, because you have very much been saved here from having to drive out on a track that will eventually get to the wet conditions. Will fear Luke and Stims. Stims is staying out. That's bold. As well as Tim. As well as, well, Jake Snow Wolf's on his way in. Peak Hour has stayed out. Ward has stayed out. And Bannicklash on his way in. Louise on his way in. The top 6 cars have stayed out on track. That surprises me. Is it maybe one of those, like, passing rainstorms that it's only going to, you know, take up a little bit of the Grand Prix, that we're not going to, you know, see maybe full intermediates? Maybe it's only just going to sprinkle like this for a little bit, and maybe it's going to dry out again towards the end of the session. Whilst they're under safety car, they could probably make it on the wet tires. I have seen someone make an entire race in wet conditions on dry tires in an F2 race in Singapore I did many seasons ago, just because the race kept getting clogged with safety cars. And now, positions 7 to 17, all on intermediate tires, as the rain is falling here. But again, it's not really falling all that much. We still have yet to see the track. You know, there is a point where you can look at the surface and say, wow, that looks slightly greasy. This would probably be the time to come in for the intermediates. That's not the case. We haven't seen that quite yet. You know, when you start to see the water droplets start to form, that's when you can tell it's going to be time for the intermediates here, and we haven't seen that quite yet. Well, this is shaping up to be a very, very interesting turn of events. We're only just past halfway. The top 6 cars have some serious thinking to do here. Do they come in this time round? That will promote the Alfa Romeo of Goon to the lead of the Grand Prix. Algeri to second. Reimer, who, oh, by the way, Reimer had an incident in the very early goings. Qualified 8th after his DNF in the quali session. And now, a good 10 laps after I thought Reimer's chances of a podium were going to be all over, he may just get it again. This is unbelievably interesting here, has to be said. Stims has a lot of thinking to do here. What I think he's done is Stims, being the driver behind his teammate of Luke. Luke was ahead. Luke came in. Stims didn't want to get caught up in the double stack, and that was going to be held no matter what happened. So he stayed out. I think Stims is going to be coming in. No, Stims stays out. Tim stays out. Peak Hour stays out. Ward stays out. Ward's actually going to get a great jump down to the inside of Peak Hour and nearly looked like he was going to make the move into turn 1. Now we see the water droplets collecting. Now the track is definitely turning wet as these top 6 cars, look at them, they're scrambling for traction here. Look at the collisions. It's an absolute traffic jam going through the second corner. Wow, and the safety car's out on track again as Bannicklash ends up in the barrier, as well as Jake Snow Wolf, as well as Ward. Oh, the 2 Alpha Towers nearly got together then. And another safety car out on track here. Yeah, I tell you what, if that wasn't your cue to come in and pit, I hate to say it. Oh, we could have seriously avoided that one. In fairness to the drivers, the track did not look this level of greasy initially. We knew it was going to happen. We knew it was a matter of time. But at that point, it still looked fine enough. Maybe they thought it was going to hold out for another lap. That's what they looked for. That wasn't the case. Safety car out now for, I believe, the 4th time today. Thankfully for me, that means this race is going to be heavily edited. And we can get it up even faster than we thought. Bannicklash drive-through for speeding under the safety car. That one, oh, not ideal for him. Oh, and well, Tim has just hit the wall there under safety car. That's something. Oh, oh, God! Loki God! Did you see that? Oh, as well as Peak Hour! Does Stims do it too? I tell you what, we just had 3 cars there absolutely smack the outside wall through turn 15, that being Lewis, Loki God, and Peak Hour. They were on their way. And yeah, look at the front wing lost for Peak Hour. I'm assuming Loki God is missing his as well. Yes, he is. And Lewis Well, I think Lewis actually took the lightest of hits out of those three, but Loki got in peak hour, absolutely smacked the wall under safety car, and it's going to be front wing changes for all three of those drivers. Into the pits they go, and this actually looks to be the driest part of the track so far. Goon is promoted to the lead of the Grand Prix, a driver that, well, to my knowledge, has yet to lead a Grand Prix. And here he is. Goon, Maple Ace, Fear Luke, Adonis, and Rise take up the top 5. If you're curious on where they stand in the standings, Maple Ace resides P11. Goon, I don't even think is classified. Luke is... I don't think Luke's classified either. Looking at this list, I don't see Luke anywhere. Adonis in the McLaren. Well, this is a very interesting statistic here. 4 out of the top 5 drivers are actually not classified. Well, sorry. And now is that right? 3 out of the top 5. Sorry about that. The two Aston Martin drivers are both classified. 3 out of the top 5 drivers are not classified in the championship as of today. Today being November the 26th. Yes. And the rain has firmly fell upon the Baku City Street Circuit here. This has been... Why do we still have Ward and Algeria on track? Baniklash, I think at least one of them had some sort of penalty, but... I don't even know what's happened here, why they haven't decided to come in. Baniklash has the drive-through that he is yet to serve. Marshall still out on the mediums. Algeria on mediums, Ward on mediums. Safety car is yet to tell us... Well, Algeria, has he just gone off track? Yes, he has. He's found the escape road. Going through the 15th corner. His teammate of Baniklash is going to actually take that spot, but... What a turn of events this is. Looks as if the safety car is going to stay out another lap here unless it suddenly decides to pull away. Yeah, looks like it's going to stay out here. I'll step aside for the time being. Sorry, I contradicted myself. Algeria has lost the car under safety car. 18 and 19, Algeria finds the barriers. Once again, he was on the medium tires. The track is wet. That was never going to end well. And yeah, Algeria has lost it under safety car. And Marshall not doing well either. Look, yeah, there's just no grip. You can't possibly be out any longer on the dries. I do not understand. You know, even if it does go back to dry conditions, it's going to take at least a few laps to be back in that point at which the slick tires are feasible. It's just not going to happen. It's going to take 3 laps to dry the track even after the rain stops. The rain is still falling here. Even if the rain stopped, like, now, it just simply would not be a good idea to still be on the slick tires. If the safety car comes in at the end of this lap, we will have 8 laps remaining here. And what has been one of the most interesting is definitely the word to describe. Interesting Grand Prix of the season here, and there's still a lot of racing left. The only other race of the season that we saw the wet conditions was in Silverstone in the first round, which we really hoped for a dry race. It was going to be great. We were going to get a proper indication on how the grid was going to shape up for this season. We've had some great racing. Now is really going to come down to who keeps that car clean, if it wasn't already. Safety car in this lap. Reminder, only 2 drivers out of the top 5 are classified in the championship, that being the pair of the Aston Martins, Maple Ace and Rise. Everyone else, a reserve driver from the looks of it, and has yet to score a point in this championship, and Goon is at the head of the grid. I would assume Maple Lace is going to really be aggressive here off the start. Goon has a very interesting task of trying to back up the grid. As he now makes his way, this is turn 20 technically. And look how slow he's made it. And now finally, pushing down the gas pedal and makes his way in towards that first corner, and he's got, oh, look at this! It's a 3-car dive into the first corner, and I really thought Luke was going to try it on Maple Lace. Oh, but around goes Goon, and in front of the drivers, in front of the rest of the grid. Wait, I tell you what, Goon, how that car is still kicking here is beyond me. I'm not sure if he has any damage, but goodness me, that one was incredibly close then, as side-by-side is Goon and Ward, as now we also have Loki God and Lewis as Rise in this battle as well. Oh, and into the barriers is Lewis. Lewis is done. Could we have another safety car on track? Several drivers off then. Ward, Marshall, Lewis. 3 cars, 2 of which in the escape road. Lewis is into the outside of the barriers at turn 3, and the track stays green. That would have been a respectable time for a safety car, but instead the track stays green, and Luke leads the grid. Oh, but is that the McLaren of Adonis? Adonis is, I think, hit the wall. He struggled coming up to speed. He's under pressure, and there he goes in the escape road and goes straight into the barriers in the escape road. And the front wing is gone on the McLaren. Well, Adonis was a driver who we thought was really going to have a fair shot at winning the Grand Prix, and now the 2 Ferraris side by side. Reimer's going to go up the inside. Quite nicely done there from his teammate, and Banniclash is off too. We've got several cars. Marshall, what in the hell is happening here? Banniclash has lost it at turn 7. Adonis has lost it up the hill, that being at turn 12. We're down to 12 drivers when we started this safety car period, or ended it with 17. 16 rather. I think Algieri actually, yeah, Algieri did retire. Oh, and there's Tim into the wall. Tim is done. Oh, I tell you what, that gave me a good jump just then. This is an unbelievable turn of events. Rise is on his way into the pits. Reimer down to the inside of Maple Ace. I tell you what, we may see some steward reports later on. Reimer locked up the rear wheel, still somehow kept the car under control. Lewis, I think, at the outside barrier there. Look how badly. As Loki God's retired, this being in the pits, we're down to 10 drivers. What in the hell has happened here? We started with 20, but oh, and Maple Ace has lost the corner. He has outbraked himself there, and he'll fall back down to P8. Luke is at an outright lead to this Grand Prix with Lewis second, Reimer third. This is unbelievable here. Look at how much that car slides, going so close towards the barriers. My goodness me. It's almost as if oh, there we go. There's 2 more in the wall. Jake Snow Wolf. And was there another car? Oh, someone. Was it Goon? I don't even know. We definitely saw Jake Snow Wolf take a header into the barriers then. Thankfully, he didn't DNF. I think he was going slow enough to avoid that. It's almost like they should put ghosting on so that the game recognizes the carnage and we get a red flag and the weather changes back to dry. That would be, I would think, almost... I mean, okay, then again, you keep ghosting on. We only lose 1 car at a time like this. I think there would have been a couple instances as Reimer's going to go round the outside of Lewis. There would have been a couple instances where we would have lost 5 cars at once. That part is definitely true. Look at the slipstream happening here. Reimer trying to defend from Lewis. Lewis has had some great speed on the outside. Reimer using his battery in hopes of defending, as Lewis still trying to be in position here. And oh, by the way, peak hour. I remember how we were saying earlier on how the Ferraris needed a good day, and we were kind of underwhelmed by peak hour's qualifying result. Yeah, he stayed out of trouble. He's up to P4. He's up 13 spots. At the moment, he claims driver of the day. This is just simply unprecedented. Rise on his way in, Snow Wolf replacing his front wing. I would assume it's going to be the same for the Aston Martin Arise here. Perhaps... No, just tires going on. No, maybe, yeah, I can hear the front wing going on. We don't have a good camera angle, but the front wing is going on. The rain is still falling. I think it's going to be a fair bet that the rain will fall to the end of the session here. But it does look lighter than it did before, that much I will say. We'll say the rain is falling, but it is light. Oh, is that Jake Snow Wolf who's gone off there? Yeah, this is at turn 3. He's nearly gone into the escape road again. Thankfully, he's not hit anything this time. We're going to come back to the start-finish line here with 5 laps to go. So we have a yellow flag, this time Rise. Apologies for that, that's my mother calling. Should we answer my mother's call? Yes.
Hello, how was your broadcast?
Still going.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Domino's pizza for dinner for you and Josh?
That's actually not a bad idea, yeah.
Okay, just because I'm making leftovers for me and Dad, and you guys had them yesterday, so I know you don't want them again today.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
I'm gonna do just half pepperoni, half cheese, if that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Well, while we were into the, down to Mother at Sky Race Control, perhaps, we just saw a great battle there between Stims and Peak Hour. These two, that was quite a battle down the front stretch. I kind of wanted to commentate on it, but if you're wondering, leftovers, American Thanksgiving was this past Thursday. Oh, Marshall's gone around! Marshall's hit the barrier! Thankfully, he hasn't lost any more than the right front end plate of his front wing, but still. Oh, and what's this? Rise is retired. Oh, by the way, the rain has stopped. Marshall's on the mediums, that'd be why. But Rise is retired. This coming out of turn, what is this, 18 and 19? Yeah, well, I tell you what, the track is going to be drying out here shortly. We have 5 laps to go here. We've got Goon who's gone off at, he's lost the front wing at turn 7. We've had 4 safety cars today. The amount of front wing, I mean, this is resembling a Monaco Grand Prix. But the question is now, how long does it take the track to dry out? Because I'm assuming, as Peak Hour gets 5 seconds for corner cutting, Peak Hour is now retired from the session, going through turn 15. Oh, there's Goon into the wall as well! By the way, we started with 20. Luke is on his way in. Reimer has decided to stay out. This is one of the more just weird Grand Prix I've seen. It's not even been bad racing. We've had some great battling while the track has been green. But, again, this is resembling a Monaco Grand Prix with how much crashing and front wings lost. Because we almost saw Luke take a header into the barriers exiting the pit lane. And I've spoken too early again about a Ferrari driver as Peak Hour retires, who was on pace for a great day at the office, and unfortunately, I don't know if this league has a 90% rule, but either way, I don't think he's met that, as Goon and Maple Ace are on their way in. Goon onto the softs, Maple Ace onto the softs, I would think. DRS has been re-enabled. That is race control telling us the track is dry enough for the dry tires. However, as you can see, it is still rather greasy. The spray still being evacuated off the tires of Marshall here. So drivers like Reimer, Lewis, and Stims, who are the only remaining 3 still on the intermediate tires, as well as Jake Snow Wolf. The top 3 still on the intermediate tires. Will they be coming in? We will have 3 laps to go this time by. This is a very interesting turn of events here. You can see the Tech Pro barrier. Look at that. It's jutting out, like, into the circuit as, Fear Luke has lost his front wing. Soft tires perhaps just didn't get up to temperature enough, and, that car is now missing some, carbon fiber on the front. It looks as if the top 3 have decided to stay out, at least the top 2. Stims, again, does decide to stay out. Fear Luke here. But look at the Tech Pro barriers on the outside of the corner. It's jutting out. You get close to the barriers there, and those stick out like that. Now, normally, in real life, they would take some time. They would perhaps even red flag the session to repair those Tech Pro barriers, and that's not the case. Again, I think red flags being on, or at the very least ghosting off to turn the red flags on at the end of it, probably would have been a good decision. Because I think ghosting, all ghosting does at this point is just ensure that in a one car at a time, necessarily. But then again, we've had the majority of the grid, so it couldn't be worth too much, could it? I mean, I don't know. That might be something to look into here. Because with ghosting off, we would have red flags. And I think that would almost be, necessary. As these two here battle it out for what will be the 5th spot. Remember, all results are unofficial until steward reports eventually come out. Let's look at the gap to the leader here. The top 3. So Fear Luke, the most recent driver to pit for the softs, he's out on track. He's 32 seconds ahead, behind Reimer, the leader. So if Reimer comes in here, which I'm thinking he may, he's only got 2 laps to go. Does he choose to stay out? It doesn't look at this point as if he's necessarily losing time to those on the slick compounds, him or Lewis here. What a wild Grand Prix this has been. And oh, by the way, next week we go to Hungary. That should be an interesting race. Hungary, very much old-style circuit. May provide us with some great racing. It typically does. That's a track that in real life I very much not like. But in the virtual world, Hungary does typically give us some great action. Hungary, Monza, Netherlands are the next 3. So with a lap and a half to go here, Reimer makes his way in towards turn 7 now. Again, he's on the intermediate tires. But still, he's not necessarily losing time to any of the drivers on the slick compound. The closest battle on track is Goon back to Maple Ace. It's about a second and a half at this point. Jake Snow Wolf on his way in. He's going to choose the soft tire, surely. It's not even been, bad racing today. You know what I mean? We've had some great racing while it's on track, but safety car breeds other safety car. And I think that's what's happened. And all credit to the drivers. They've done what they can, but it's been sheer calamity today. It's no lack of skill. These are some of the most skilled drivers I've seen. It's no lack of skill. It's just sheer calamity. That's the case. Well, Reimer's got one final lap left here, as he leads the Grand Prix by 4 seconds over that of Lewis. Stim's making his way through turn 19 and 20 now, again getting dangerously close to the Tech Pro on the outside. This is the battle for 5th here between Goon and Maple Ace. These two, about 7 laps ago, were looking like they were in position to win today. I'm actually... I don't get very much lost for words often. I am definitely lost for words today. But let's focus on what we do know, is that Goon battling Maple Ace here with the aid of DRS coming up. DRS activated here. They'll get about 200-ish miles an hour at the start-finish line, about 207. Into the braking zone, it'll be about Yeah, about 2:05. I don't know, maybe he's let off there. Final lap underway for these two. Reimer making his way through Sector 2 now. Wow. This has just been absolutely ridiculous, really. Well, Reimer, what we do know, is had a great day. A real bounce-back race from him. He didn't have a great qualifying session. He retired in the qualifying session. Didn't have the best beginning to the race. And there was a time where I did seriously think his chances for even a podium were out the window. But as he makes his way through turn 20 and down the pit straight now, it will be Qatar and it will be Azerbaijan as Reimer wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix here. His third podium in 3 races, 2 wins out of 3 races. Back-to-back from last week in Qatar. Lewis finishes second. By the way, we've got a battle here. This is for the 5th spot. It looks as if Luke will take P3. Yes, he will. Stim's 4th, and then the battle for 5th. And it looks like Goon is just a little too far behind to make it happen this time. Yes, he is. Maple Ace coming to the line here shortly for the 5th spot. Goon for P6. Jake Snow Wolf, we can go ahead and assume, will be P7, and Marshall P8. Next week, we head to the Hungaroring. Hotspot, it's been a pleasure joining you once again here in the JAG Sunday Series. We'll see you next time.